Evolution of Boeing. The Foundation. Founded on July 15, 1963 by William E. Boeing. William E. Boeing dropped out of Yale University in 1903 to take advantage of an opportunity in the northwestern timber industry. His son William Boeing Jr. talked about how ambitious his father was and a vivid, fast reader who remembered everything he read. He was known as a perfectionist. In 1909, Boeing had attended the world's first International Air Meeting in Los Angeles, which was an event that showcased the wonders of powered flight. Boeing was founded in Seattle, Washington. Under his leadership, a small airplane manufacturing company grew into a huge corporation. Boeing's original name was Pacific Airplane Company, which was later changed to Boeing. Taking flight. The first aircraft built by Boeing was the Model 1 aircraft, which was a seaplane with a wooden frame, wire supports, and a linen covering. It was capable of carrying two pilots. It was known as the B&W Seaplane to give credit to William E. Boeing and co-founder George Conrad Westervelt. There were only two airplanes that were originally made. B&W planned to sell the aircraft to the U.S. Navy, but was shot down due to its not meeting the correct specs. Shortly after, Westervelt was called up by the Navy to go to the East Coast to serve. They had later sold the two aircraft to the New Zealand Flight School, which was part of the country's Royal Flying Corps. They had then later went on to being used for airmail flights in the country. The first commercial plane. The Model 200 and 201 monomail. The Model 200 monomail was a low-wing plane that provided room for short, lightweight retractable landing gear and had a steam-lined fuselage with an engine covering by an anti-drag cowling. The Model 200 monomail was used as a mail carrier, which marked the first commercial plane for Boeing. The Model 200 was capable for carrying passengers and mail, having room for 6 passengers in an enclosed cabin. This aircraft had paved way of Boeing's large multi-engine aircraft. There were only two monomail planes made as the single-engine mail passenger plane was giving way to multi-engine designs, and in 1934 the Department of Commerce made multi-engine configurations a requirement for passenger transports. The beginning of United. In 1928, Boeing started an airplane business, then William E. Boeing went on to establish the United Aircraft Corporation in 1928. United Aircraft Corporation acquired mail and passengers service by Pacific Air Transport on January 1st, 1928, then renamed Boeing Aircraft and Transport Corporation, which merged with Pratt and Whitney Aircraft in early 1929 to form United Aircraft Transportation Corporation. In 1933, United added the Boeing 247, which was the first time passengers were able to fly across the United States without an overnight stop or changing planes. On October 10, 1933, United Boeing 247 had an in-air explosion that killed 7 people aboard. An investigation revealed the explosion to be the first case of air sabotage in commercial aviation history. No suspects or motives were ever found. August of 1970, United took its first Boeing 747s, which allowed them to operate them on longer routes within the United States. The 747, the Queen of the Skies. The first Boeing 747 rolled out on September 30th, 1968, from Everett Plant, which was the largest building by volume in the world. The 747 was a recognizable symbol of long-haul air travel. It is still used in cargo today within the United States, and some commercially overseas. Its first flight took place on February 9, 1969. The 747 went into service for Pan Am's New York to London route in 1970. Pan Am purchased 25 747s for $525 million. The initial 747-100 had a seating capacity of 374 seats. Its wide fuselage, hinged nose, and upper deck cockpit created the very distinctive look of the Queen that it's known to be. The 747-100 had quickly became a favorite amongst passengers and airlines alike. It had a spacious interior and improved pressurization system like never before. It had reduced noise levels compared to earlier jets, allowing for a more comfortable flying experience. The U.S. Air Force uses two heavily modified 747-200Bs as Air Force One, which is the presidential transport. In 2020, Boeing ended the production of the 747, with its future uncertain. The final aircraft was delivered in January of 2023 after 54 years of production. There were 1,574 of the 747s made and will always be known as the Queen of the Skies. The Boeing 767. The first flight took place on September 26, 1981. In 1982, the 767 started its commercial operations with United Airlines. It developed in parallel with the 757. The difference between the 767 was its wide body compared to the 757, which was a narrow-body aircraft. The launch of the 767 came after the development of the 747, which was a twin-jet aircraft meant to be more fuel-efficient and was eventually made airworthy to fly over the Atlantic after making a few adjustments. Boeing started working on the 757 and 767 varieties after the 1970s launch of the Boeing 747. The decision was to adopt a twin-engine layout similar to the Airbus A300. These varieties were planned, which eventually dropped as it was too similar to the 757. The Boeing 737. The 737-100 was first introduced to the world in February of 1968. The 737 had sold over 18,000 orders across all its varieties. In the early 1960s, the short-haul market was set to be saturated with competing aerospace companies and aircrafts such as the BAC-111 to the McDonnell Douglas with the DC-9, making competition much harder. Development on the 737 started in November of 1964. The capacity of the aircraft ranged from 60 to 85 passengers, having the 3-to-3 configuration that we see today. It had a range of up to 1,000 miles. February of 1968 marked the first 737-100 into service, which was sent overseas and was the first time a non-U.S. airline launched a Boeing aircraft. Boeing went on to make different varieties of the 737 and is still a very popular option for short to mid-length flights, even having the capacity to fly overseas with some newer models. The Boeing 777. The Boeing 777, a family of wide-body, twin-engine aircraft. The 777 is used for both passenger flights and cargo transportation. First flight on June 12, 1994 and commenced on July 7, 1995. It is the world's largest twin-engine jet and has more than 1,200 in operation. It was the first aircraft to be entirely designed by using a computer, and it was the first completely new jet developed by Boeing in more than a decade. In October of 1990, United Airlines had placed its first order for the 777s, over 128 units worth, around $22 billion. United's order was the largest ever for commercial aircraft. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner. The 787 Dreamliner first flew in 2009, opening up a new era of composite construction and a more efficient wide-body aircraft, having more comfort and being the most fuel-efficient wide-body to be developed. During its early stages, they faced a few issues both in design and construction, but later fixed those issues and remains a popular and successful development for Boeing. Composite fuselage construction. The 787 was the first major commercial aircraft to use carbon fiber composites in the fuselage and wing construction. This allowed for a lighter and stronger aircraft. It cost more to develop due to its cost of carbon fiber, but allowed for a more efficient aircraft and has more practical milestones for Boeing. It had a 20% reduce on fuel used in flight. The 787 is a twin-jet aircraft powered by either General Electric GE9X or the Rolls-Royce Trent 100. They are high-bypass turbofan engines. Sources. Thank you for watching.